Hello everybody, and welcome to another Game News Roundup, where we go over the latest gaming news, sales figures, anything related to the gaming industry. And today's focus, I know it's not a shock, is the latest happenings with Microsoft's Activision Blizzard acquisition, as the Competition and Markets Authority, the CMA, also, the UK regulators, have released Microsoft's response to the CMA's questions at the Remedies hearing. So, if you enjoy these videos, be sure to subscribe. I'm a little over 300 away from 10,000. It would be pretty awesome to finally get to that number. And as always, of course, hit the like button. And if you want to add anything about what I say, feel free to join the discussion down below in the comments section. If you want to check out these articles themselves, there'll be links in the description. So let's get straight into this. So Microsoft, in its response to the questions by the UK regulators, basically said keeping Call of Duty on PlayStation consoles for 10 years is more than enough time for Sony to develop its own alternative to the popular first-person shooter series. So Microsoft's direct quote, which was released during, the response here by the CMA. They said, at the Remedies hearing, the CMA asked Microsoft if the 10-year duration is sufficient and whether there would be a cliff edge for Sony at the end of the period. The 10-year period is redacted. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of redacteds in this, although not as much as some other things. But 10-year period was probably going into like 2032, 2033 would be my guess is how long that 10-year period will last for. Microsoft considers that a period of 10 years is sufficient time for Sony as a leading publisher and console platform to develop its own alternative to Call of Duty. Basically, Microsoft saying, hey, 10 years is more than enough time for Sony to develop an alternative to Call of Duty. I mean, they do own Bungie now, the developers of Destiny, although Destiny will remain multi-platform. Their future games, at least I think that was with the deal with them acquiring Bungie. Bungie can keep releasing their games on other platforms besides PlayStation consoles. And they have released, PlayStation has released in the past other first-person shooter series like Killzone. Just they haven't made any in a while. They've been more focused on the third-person action-adventure games, kind of like God of War, Horizon Forbidden West, upcoming Spider-Man 2. They also obviously had Gran Turismo. The 10-year term will extend into the next console generation, redacting PlayStation 6, obviously, and then whatever the next-gen Xbox will be called. I don't know. Probably 2028, 2029. I mean, it sounds like 2028 will be the earliest we see the next generation consoles, maybe even later. But that'd be 1 year longer than the last couple of generations, if it comes out in 2028. Moreover, the practical effect of the remedy will go beyond the 10-year period, since games downloaded in the final year of the remedy can continue to be played for the lifetime of that console and beyond with backwards compatibility. So yeah, Microsoft's saying, yes, even if somehow after 10 years I decide to actually stop releasing Call of Duty on PlayStation consoles, the previously released Call of Duty games will remain on PlayStation consoles and will be available via backwards compatibility in future years. Now, this is not saying that Microsoft will definitely drop Call of Duty. It's just what could happen if they wanted to drop. And obviously saying this is more than enough time for Sony to develop its own alternative to Call of Duty. So yeah, Call of Duty is an entertainment franchise which is already nearly 20 years old. Microsoft will need to secure the broadest distribution of the franchise and will be heavily incentivized to keep it on the PlayStation platform. I don't know what that redacted could even be hinting at. I'm not sure on that one. Microsoft considers that having maintained Call of Duty on PlayStation and grown its player base on Nintendo, GeForce Now, and other cloud gaming platforms for a decade, it will have no incentive or indeed ability to take Call of Duty exclusives. So yeah, recently Microsoft did sign a deal with Nintendo to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo platforms for the next 10 years, as well as deals with 3 different cloud streaming services: NVIDIA's GeForce Now, Boosteroid, and Ubitus. I'm sure that's not how you pronounce it, but I'm not totally sure. To bring all Xbox games on PC, including Activision Blizzard games, if that deal is approved, to those cloud streaming services. A 10-year term is longer than the previous licensing remedy put in place in Reckitt Benckiser, KY brand, and as well as a bunch of others which were for 10 years. That Microsoft list of other remedies that CMA apparently agreed to that are 8 or 10 years long. So Microsoft's saying that this isn't like too short It's about where things have been. So yeah, CMA, there is no basis for extending the remedies beyond the period proposed by Microsoft, 10 years, because it is in line with other remedies that have been put in place. Microsoft added that its proposed remedy would apply to all PlayStation consoles for the 10-year period. So, PS4, PS4 Pro, PS5, maybe the PS5 Pro, if, that comes out next year. I don't know. And obviously PS6, when that comes out in 2028 at the earliest, maybe 2029 or 2030, depending on how long this generation lasts. It feels like it's just starting to get going now, and we're over 2 years into the current generation. Microsoft was asked if it would extend this remedy to any new entrants into the video game console market, and Microsoft does not consider this to be necessary. Basically, asked, hey, if some other company wanted to release their own video game console, will this extend to having to release Call of Duty on those consoles? And the answer, no. Apparently, was no. Microsoft does not think that is necessary. Microsoft does not consider that this is necessary in order to remedy, mitigate, or prevent the console SLC identified in the provisional findings, which does not relate to a hypothetical withholding of Call of Duty from potential new entrants. Rather, the provisional findings focus specifically on the potential impact of the merger on Sony. In particular, the provisional findings conclude that Call of Duty is an important input for Sony PlayStation. The CMA has not, however, found or presented evidence to suggest that Call of Duty is an important input for console providers generally. Nor could the CMA reach such a conclusion, given that Call of Duty is not available on Nintendo, the second largest provider of consoles today, which, in some ways, they must be the biggest, as the Switch has outsold the PS4, and is currently the third best-selling video game platform of all time, behind the PS2 and the DS. Which it does have it still has a chance, maybe not a huge chance, of becoming the best-selling gaming platform of all time. The Switch potentially outselling the PS2 or the DS. The biggest question mark is the lifespan. When is the next Nintendo console coming out? Which we don't know yet. My guess, March 2024 at the earliest. So at least, maybe about a year's time from now at the earliest. Anyways, as the provisional findings acknowledge, console platforms offer different technical specifications and differentiated gaming propositions. Nintendo's success demonstrates conclusively that a console platform's ability to compete effectively is not dependent on the ability to offer Call of Duty to its customers. Rather, this is possible with a differentiated offer. In any event, Microsoft has already reached an agreement to bring Call of Duty to the Nintendo platform for 10 years as part of its strategy to make Call of Duty as widely available as possible. Also, in the same report released by the CMA, Microsoft saying Call of Duty, it will be optimized for PlayStation consoles, even if they will be owning Call of Duty. And could potentially include more features, such as haptic feedback, which is available in the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller, which is not available in the Xbox controllers, as of yet, anyway. The parties note in particular that there is no basis in the provisional findings for what would essentially amount to a beyond parity obligation, requiring Microsoft to develop a PlayStation version of Call of Duty, which has more features than the Xbox version, wrote Microsoft. Rather, the relevant partial foreclosure mechanisms considered in the provisional findings, which is the remedy, is designed to relate to releasing a worse version of Call of Duty on PlayStation consoles, for example, with fewer features and degrading the graphical quality of the PlayStation version. The concern provisionally identified is that Sony would be a substantially less effective competitor than it would be absent the merger, as Microsoft will be shipping Call of Duty on PlayStation in compliance with its remedy commitments, redacted, with the CMA and other regulators, I'm guessing, and maybe for 10 years. I don't know, maybe that's what it says. I'm not totally sure. Microsoft will have every incentive to develop games with optimized support for PS5 features, such as haptics, and future consoles in order to maximize sales on the platform. The CMA also asked Microsoft how it defines parity and how it practically implemented and measured. Features and content are designed to be seen, and key performance parities can be measured by gamers. Independent reviewers of games, e.g. Digital Foundry, which is well known for going in and testing games, seeing how well they run on different consoles, which version runs better, whether it's PlayStation, Xbox, or testing on PC or games on Nintendo platforms to see how things run. And also Microsoft said Sony can test the game to make sure that the PlayStation version has parity with the Xbox version. Generally, developing a new game is a transparent process, and substantive interactions with platforms, including Sony PlayStation, begin sometime before game launch, some odd years. In the case of Call of Duty specifically, development closely involves a platform with redacted. Microsoft added that throughout development, Activision monitors performance between the Xbox, PlayStation, and PC builds across multiple metrics, and of course, I'm sure that will start including Nintendo platforms, as well as some cloud streaming platforms as well. One last thing. Reuters, in its own report, having spoken with several people who are familiar with the matter, have been told that Microsoft's remedies to the European Commission, the European Union regulators, only included concerns over cloud streaming and made no mention of video game console rival Sony with its PlayStation consoles. The lack of any remedies related to PlayStation suggests, not that this is definite, but it does suggest that the regulator no longer has any concerns about competition in the video game console market, since its main focus is sales in Europe, and sales have been, in mainland Europe, about 80% for Xbox. 80% of sales have been PlayStation, 20% for Xbox. It does not include Nintendo, of course. It's just between those two, and obviously if you include Nintendo, PlayStation is going to be smaller, and Xbox will be an even smaller percentage. But between PlayStation and Xbox, it's 80-20. At least according to the data Microsoft has released. Microsoft has recently announced multiple 10-year deals to bring Xbox games on PC to 3 cloud streaming services: NVIDIA's GeForce Now, Boosteroid, and Ubitus. Ubitus? I don't know. One of those. So these new deals, these 10-year deals Microsoft has in place, might be enough to make the European Union regulators happy. And I've been more for the fact that I'm thinking European Union regulators are more likely to approve the deal. Not that I have any insider information, I really have no idea, but it feels like they'd be most likely to approve the deal, more so than the FTC in the US or the CMA in the UK, where those are the big question marks. And I feel like even the UK is probably the biggest question mark of them all. I feel like the European Union regulators leaning towards them passing it. The FTC probably, maybe with more remedies in place to maybe pass the deal. And then the UK is the biggest question mark, which is why overall I feel like it's 50-50 chance of the deal currently being approved. But we will see over the coming weeks, or months even at this point, where things will be, whether the deal gets passed or not. And if the deal does get passed, I will definitely, probably pretty quickly, get a video out of saying it's been passed or it's been blocked, one way or the other, whether it's passed or blocked. I plan on doing these Game News Roundup once or twice a week, as long as there's enough interesting topics to go over. So yeah, again, subscribe, hit the like button. Hope you all enjoyed today's video. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time for some more gaming news, game sales, and other discussions on the gaming industry. So thank you all so much for watching.